Let's get started with our first news. Nate Diaz clashes with Team Khabib at UFC weigh-ins. Russian channel Usha TAA Umar Nurmagomedov opened up about a tense altercation with Nate Diaz that took place at UFC weigh-ins. According to Umar, Diaz initially walked past him, Khabib, and Islam Makhachev without saying a word, but as soon as there was some distance and security nearby, Diaz suddenly switched up, pointing fingers and shouting across the room. Things escalated when he started throwing objects in their direction, trying to provoke a reaction. Khabib and his team, however, weren't fazed. He claimed that they had already dealt with Diaz in the past and saw no reason to engage again. To them, it was just another instance of Nate stirring up trouble when he knew he was protected. Despite the tension, the situation never turned physical, as security quickly stepped in before things could get out of hand. Nate's one of those guys who acts tough when security is around. When he walked past me, Khabib, and Islam, he didn't do anything. If he really wanted to punch me or anyone, he was just one step away, but instead of actually doing it, he walked away and started pointing fingers and throwing stuff our way from a distance. He started it, but honestly, we don't care about that guy at all. We've already given him what he deserved. It was a long time ago, and we smacked him. Now, Umar is focused on bouncing back after his first career loss. He dominated Corey Sandhagen in August, securing his first main event win by unanimous decision, but later suffered a setback against Merab Dvalishvili, despite quite recently revealing a fractured arm that initially cast doubt on his availability. He's determined to return stronger in 2025 with plenty of big fights on the horizon. Fans are eager to see how Umar rebounds and what's next for him in the bantamweight division. What are your thoughts? Who do you think Umar faces in his comeback fight? Leave your comments. Moving on to the second news, Henry Cejudo thinks he can beat Merab Dvalishvili in his fight against Song Yadong tomorrow at UFC Seattle. Henry Cejudo reveals he was going to retire after his recent unanimous decision loss to Aljamain Sterling. However, Dana White didn't give him the microphone after the fight. Henry explains why he's glad that happened, and despite losing, he still feels like Merab is not on his level. He's excited for the opportunity. You know, it's been a year since I fought, and just excited, dude. First of all, I don't think I ever really thought that I would be competing at this level. Dude, I wasn't even thinking I was going to compete past 29. I never wanted to get into my 30s and still compete, but that's not life, you know? I'm proud of myself for that. Same reason to be able to still compete and do the whole 9 at this age. It just, you know, I never thought I'd be one of those, but apparently I am. The time that I did retire at the age of 33, I was super satisfied with my career. Olympic gold, 2 division champ, it was all that I ever wished for and some. You know, I've always wanted to win the Olympics and then become a UFC champion, but then I've been able to even exceed my own goals. And I think it's complex because you start seeing these guys fire. You start to get a little bit of the drive. Maybe you get into the trolling a little bit, but then you really do start to question, dude, can I still compete with these dudes? You know? And that's the biggest question now. So it's more of a motivation. That's a not feeling the pain of losing and going out there and feeling that satisfaction once again. I want to thank Dana because Dana White didn't give me that mic, so I didn't get a chance to put my gloves down, and I think that was the best thing that could have happened because I'm just like, man, I didn't feel like Merab was at my level, and I did have a growing issue in that fight camp. I was pretty much hurt for like 3 weeks. So 5 weeks of not wrestling, and I still believed that I could win, but you know, that wasn't the case, man. I won the first, and I got dominated in the second and third round, and you know, sometimes things happen for a reason, dude. I think what Merab is doing now is, I got to tip my hat out to him. Respect, dude, respect, man. Moving on to another news, Leon Edwards gets warned ahead of his next fight. Leon Edwards is a former welterweight champ and currently holds the #1 contender spot in the UFC's welterweight division. But Michael Bisping believes what's unfolded recently for Rocky's next fight could end up being a nightmare for the renowned fighter. Edwards was originally scheduled to fight Jack Della Mela at the UFC's upcoming March 22nd card in London, England. But on account of an injury to Shavkat Rakhmonov, JDM has been tapped to fight their current champion Bilal Muhammad at UFC 315 this coming May. As a result, Sean Brady has been moved into the scrap with Edwards. Well, more recently, Bisping discussed a change via a video on his YouTube channel. The way the former middleweight champion sees it, the turn of events could turn out to be a very, very bad thing for Edwards. This is kind of a nightmare situation for Leon Edwards. I'm not saying Leon can't beat him, but stylistically and on short notice, this is a very, very different fight and potentially a harder fight than JDM. Styles make fights. Leon is a sniper on the feet. Of course, he's got great takedown defense. He was able to take down Kamaru Usman, fully mounted him, and all the rest of it. We know he's well-rounded, but when you're training for Jack Della Mela and you're focusing on boxing, pretty much a stand-up affair, when you're really not working on the takedown defense and defending chokes and all the variety of madness in the jiu-jitsu world that Sean Brady does offer, it's a big mix-up. It's hard to disagree with anything that Bisping noted here. JDM is much more of a striker, while Brady is widely known to be more of a grappling specialist. So, while Edwards has showcased strong wrestling defense in many of his fights, he was out-wrestled and out-grappled by Muhammad in his last outing. But what do you think? Is Edwards facing an uphill battle now that he's facing Brady at UFC London? Moving on to another news, Michael Venom Page made an appearance on the Overdogs podcast with Mike Perry, and the two discussed their fighting BKFC back in 2022. Perry defeated MVP via majority decision. MVP believes he actually won the fight. However, he's happy with the way it played out. Since their fight, Perry has gone on to secure finishes against notable opponents such as Luke Rockhold, Eddie Alvarez, and Thiago Alves. MVP took the opportunity to commend Perry for his achievements in BKFC. I gotta ask this, did you beat Mike Perry in bare knuckle? Oh hell yes, because it was so close. That was a good fight, and I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, for me, I enjoyed that fight so much, and I'm glad it kind of went the way it went. And I always say this, how things are supposed to happen, how things happen are the way they're supposed to happen. He went on to do some amazing things in BKFC and just created such a great name. I love your character, I love your personality. Like I said to even in the build-up, like me before even meeting you in the build-up, I was like, this is the kind of guy that I know I'd go out with because I could just tell your energy, like it's on point, man. Like you are such an entertainer, but also you come for war every single time, and nobody has ever seen me in that state before. Ever has. Like no, like even in this last fight, everyone's talking about how good this guy's striking is. Not one strike to hit me in the 15 rounds in my face. One punch in the face, I didn't have to face legs. Yeah, and regardless, I remember the ref getting on you when you would take my back. I was covering up and I was like, I wanted to be like, no, it's fine. Like, I want to figure him out. Yeah, and fight him. But then I was like, I can't. He's not allowed to do it. Moving on to another news, Daniel Cormier surprised with Ilia Topuria's move to 155. Cormier surprised with Ilia Topuria's move to 155. Although Ilia Topuria repeatedly talked about moving up to 155 to hunt that division's title, Daniel Cormier recently explained why he's surprised El Matador is making the jump. Just a few days ago, Dana White announced Topuria was vacating the featherweight crown and that he's moving to lightweight. The UFC CEO said that Topuria has decided to do so since he thinks he's cleaned out the division and because he has trouble making 145 pounds. Well, since then, Cormier and Chael Sonnen weighed in on the news during their Good Guy, Bad Guy show. Here's some of what DC had to say. He's a champion through and through, but when I see him, he's not a big guy. I don't feel like he's a big guy. So to hear he says he can't make 145 anymore to me seems a bit odd because I see the UFC lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, in the gym. I saw Khabib Nurmagomedov as a champ. Hell, I see Michael Chandler. And dude, Charles Oliveira is massive. These guys are bigger, much bigger than Ilia Topuria. Do you buy that he just can't make the weight anymore? Or is it I just don't want to fight the scale at that level? This is interesting from Cormier, for sure. Although he's not the first person to flag that Topuria doesn't seem to be a huge featherweight, Cormier is on point as far as the fact that Topuria could end up facing much bigger men than him at 155. But perhaps that's one of the reasons El Matador wants to make a run at lightweight, to prove his doubters wrong and potentially secure his name as an all-time great by winning another division's title. But what do you think of Cormier's take here? And do you think that Topuria will have a tough time hanging with the larger lightweights of the division? Moving on to another news, Alex Pereira fires back at Daniel Cormier for his concern comments. Recently, Daniel Cormier expressed some concerns regarding Alex Pereira's preparations for his upcoming fight against Magomed Ankalaev. Cormier suggested that Pereira isn't fully committed to his training camp and claimed that the fighter is spending too much of his time on side ventures instead of focusing on the fight. Cormier's comments raised questions about Pereira's dedication, with the former UFC champion suggesting that the Brazilian fighter might not be putting in the work needed for this crucial battle. However, Alex Pereira wasn't having any of it. In a bold move, Pereira took to Instagram to respond directly to Cormier's concerns. He posted a video showing himself hard at work in training, proving that he's indeed putting in the effort for his upcoming matchup. Pereira captioned the video with a pointed message to Cormier: "Don't worry, Daniel Cormier, we're over here working," making it clear that he's fully focused on the fight ahead and that he's putting in the necessary work to ensure victory. His response seemed to brush off Cormier's comments, showing confidence in his preparation and reminding fans that despite any doubts, he remains committed to the fight. This back and forth between Pereira and Cormier only adds to the growing anticipation for his clash with Ilia. Fans are eager to see how Pereira will perform, especially after his impressive run in the UFC so far. As for Cormier, his concerns might have been a way to get inside Pereira's head, but judging by Pereira's response, it seems like the fighter is staying calm and focused. It will be interesting to see how this all plays out as we approach the showdown between the two competitors, with both sides having their own reasons for confidence going into the fight.